Welcome to this special episode of the Travel Plus Loyalty podcast. Special because it is an episode born out of the European Football Championship and how football fans have been able to see the great achievements by the Danish national team live until it ended in London. When Denmark won the finals in Amsterdam against the Czech Republic 2-1, then a thought started in the head of Frederik Svitzer. He had just arranged flights from Sønderborg to Amsterdam, and now he was thinking on how he could arrange a flight in Baku, Azerbaijan. He was now under 4 days on kickoff. The issue at hand was the travel restrictions. It was possible to get into Baku, but the issue was that when you returned to Denmark, you would have to stay up to 10 days in quarantine, which was not what most of the people who wanted to see the match could do. So the first attempt was cancelled. But suddenly, on a late Thursday evening, the Danish authorities decided to give an exception to the quarantine, and then Frederik tried again to arrange the flight. This was the kickoff on how you can arrange a flight with over 100 people to Baku and back again the day after, all done in under 24 hours. Actually, the crew itself was first called in 12 hours before the plane would depart Aalborg to Copenhagen and then later to Baku. We have talked to Frederik and how his normal travel company, Skilejrskole, that normally sends people on ski holidays, now plans football trips. Also a talk with Stinne Dalsø, who is the COO of Great Dane Airlines, and lastly Tine Lyhne Bonde, who was one of the pilots on the actual flight. Also, how perfect was it to use Great Airlines and their plane to fly to the semifinals when the tail design of the Emperor is a huge, beautiful Danish national flag? But let's get started and hear how you plan a charter flight to Baku in under 24 hours. And now welcome to Stinne Dalsø and Frederik Svitzer, who has joined the studio and will talk a little bit about this very exciting trip to Baku for 100 plus fans to see the football match. Stine, welcome, and can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, hi Henrik, and thank you for having me here. I am Tine Dalsø. I'm the CEO of Great Dane Airlines and overall responsible for the operations of the airline.
Okay, that's perfect. And Frederik, over to you. Please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello, Henrik, and hello, Stine, and thanks for having me. I'm Frederik. I'm CEO at Skilejrskole. We are basically operating with school camps to Norway with groups from 40 to 90 people. We're doing that from January to March, and I've been doing this kind of job since 2007.
And that makes me actually to my very, very first question here. How do Skilejrskole, who operates ski tours, how do you actually come up with the idea to plan a trip to Baku watching football?
A lot of people have been asking me that question, and one of the things is I've always had an interest in organizing for groups, whatever it's parties or if it's holiday, travel, whatever. And then before COVID-19, I worked at the airport in Kastrup in Copenhagen as a gate manager. And through that, I got to know a lot of airlines, a lot of people within the airline industry. And then I actually started the match before Baku. There was a match in Amsterdam, and I contacted another Danish airline, start selling tickets there, and then Great Dane contacted me and say, right, we have capacity, we have these flights. If you wanna do another trip, please don't hesitate, just contact us. And then it went quite all right with the first to Amsterdam, and I thought, all right, I'll see if I can do it again and fill up a flight to go to Baku.
And about that, you did a couple of rounds trying to fill up that flight. How did it went? Because you only had basically from the last match in Amsterdam and until the Baku match, you only had a week. So how did it actually go with selling the tickets on the flight?
Well, the first one I set up on Sunday, the day after the Amsterdam match, and I was trying to sell tickets there, but I'm not an official partner with the Danish National Football Association, and people were like, I don't know, but I think people are like, what's going on? A company selling ski trips, starting selling tickets for a flight to Baku. I actually just sold 2 tickets and I got a little bit afraid and then canceled the flight. Then I got a new price, did another try on Wednesday, sold 46 tickets, canceled the flight Thursday morning, and then Thursday night around 9:30, everything changed because the restrictions from coming from Azerbaijan changed. So before that, you had to quarantine for 10 days, and now Thursday night you didn't have to quarantine at all. So you could just travel, go see the match, come back and work the next day.
So basically, Thursday evening you tried again to sell tickets and flight to Baku, leaving Saturday morning. How many tickets did you sell in that short notice? And also a little bit about the crowdfunding idea that you made in parallel with that. What are all these things that what it took to create a success?
Well, first of all, actually, I didn't start selling Thursday night because I wasn't quite aware of the price for the flight because I knew that it was a little bit more expensive to land at Baku, so I wasn't quite sure of the price. But immediately I contacted Great Dane and said, "All right, can we set up a flight for tomorrow?" And a guy, he came back to me and said, "Yeah, it might be possible. Don't know. I have to get back to you tomorrow morning." Then he got back to me and then said, "All right, it's possible. This is the price," and so on. And then I started actually Friday at 11:30, 11:45. So what's that? More or less 20 hours prior to departure. And first of all, we had a deadline that said 1 o'clock. We had to change it till 2, and then went on till 5 o'clock. And we didn't manage to fill up the entire flight in that period, so we had to do some crowdfunding to see if people were willing to help us to get this flight to Azerbaijan. And fantastic guy Thomas, he helped me to set up and manage the crowdfunding, and we actually managed to get quite a lot of money within a few hours. And with the tickets we were selling, including these money, it was possible to get the flight airborne and fly to Azerbaijan.
That's very interesting. So how many people participated in the crowdfunding? Just in average, was it 10, 15, 100 or?
To be honest, I have no idea. It could be anything between 100 and 1,000. I don't know. But people donated between 50 and 1,000 Danish kroner, which was quite impressive and very, very good. And I just want to say that we actually kept selling unless we had the deadline at 5 o'clock. We said, all right, we're going to stop there. But the flight wasn't full, so we just kept selling. And actually, we sold the last ticket. That was Friday night Saturday morning at 2:51. And we emailed the PAX manifest at 3 o'clock. So just 9 minutes before we emailed the final list, we sold the last ticket. And that was 112 people in total.
It's a very, very interesting story in selling up a complete flight in under 24 hours, basically. And that actually leads us to you, Stine. You are in charge of operations in Great Dane Airlines, and a trip like this, 12 hours notice, or at least 24 hours notice. What is the story? What happens in your end in an airline when when Frederik, a crazy guy, wants to buy a flight that leaves under 24 hours later?
I would say what always happens, because we're quite a small airline and we're always ready for a good challenge. But with that being said, we have a very forward-thinking sales department. So we had this Baku thing running around the house for a week or so. We knew that after the Amsterdam match that something could be coming up, and we had warned crew that there would perhaps be a flight. So we had also asked who would be ready to go, amongst others Tine, if this is going to happen. And when I went home on Friday afternoon, I had my team set in the operations department ready in coordination with sales department, and we had a deadline, as Frederik also mentioned. We kind of moved the deadline several times, but our final deadline was around 6 o'clock, because then we would be able to warn crew in proper time and to make the arrangements necessary. And I think it was booked 5:30 or so. I received a call around that time from the operations department saying, okay, it's going to happen. And then they started working on the trip, calling in crew, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get back to Tine, who was the pilot, or one of the pilots on the flight. So you plan a flight to Baku, an airport you've never been at before, during Friday and late night Friday. How was that done? Because a new airport where you need to operate in, you need to have catering on the flight out. You need to have catering on the back home, hotel and transport in Baku, and so forth. How do you do that? Is there a manual for this, or is it just sending an email? How do you do that? Even though it's normal procedures, I guess, in some way.
Yeah, of course, there's something with the time frame that is somewhat challenging. But however, we have quite a structured setup what to do in these short notice cases. We have also done short notice flights before, as we are a smaller airline. We are able to do this, and we have a flow where we have a process saying, okay, this is Frederik calling us, sales calls me, say, do we have crew, do we have aircraft, etc. And then we kind of go through the flow, and then when someone pushes the button and books the flight, it passes on in the system, and OCC starts working quite practically on it, operational wise, flight plans, contacting handling agents. Frederik already talked to our very talented sales department earlier that day with regards to who would be the handler. We try to be ahead, so when we push the button, we have a plan. We have a clear plan. What is the next step? To be honest, of course, there were a lot of challenges. For example, the catering. I received a picture from Karina at 11:30 in the evening. She was in Bilka trying to find some merchandise and something for the flight and some extra snacks, because the catering was closed, so it was, everyone just pitches in, and that's what makes it funny. It's not standard, we love doing our normal scheduled flights, but what keeps us alive are these ad hoc situations where we have to pull together as a team.
Catering from Bilka, that I haven't heard that. But again, it makes sense. Friday late night, how do you cater for 112 passengers plus crew? I assume there was like 2 or 3 in the cabin and 2 pilots, so almost 120 people that you need to cater for. That going to be a big shopping basket at Bilka, I guess, to get that running.
Yeah, actually, Karina focused mostly on I would say accessories,
Okay.
to show that it was we were going to a Danish football match, and of course some beer and stuff.
Yeah, but I saw some picture that the plane was good decorated inside as well with flags, and you have a wonderful Danish flag on the outside. So
yes,
I'm pretty happy that you have redesigned it from your Vietnam trip. So it's back in the normal Danish flag, our Great Dane Airlines colors with the big flag. So it's a perfect flight on that one. So basically, what I hear you say, it is not a big deal. You have procedures for this, but is it as easy to plan this trip at Baku as it is to plan a trip to Malaga?
Basically, yes. You contact, it's the same contact flow. Of course, there are challenges also because, Azerbaijan hasn't been, suddenly there was a very big interest in going to Azerbaijan. Frederik knows as well, we had some challenges with the handling and how they would handle us and the fees, etc. And hotels, now that there were more people going to Baku, etc. But all in all, we have the same flow regardless of which airport we are going to. Of course, if it was from Malaga, we would have some contracts already. Now we had to make them as we go, but we have great partners in these regards. So it was not that it was hands tied on your back, but we have a flow, so it was okay. Yeah.
But that's actually quite comforting to know that even though it's fairly fast, I would say that calling a pilot 12 hours before departure and so forth, that is a little bit out of the extraordinary, but it's fairly comforting, and from a security point of view as well, that everything actually has a flow and a procedure, and it's not something that is rushed through. So that's really good. What we're going to do now is that we're going also to talk to Tine. So we'll change over to Tine now and hear what she's experienced as a pilot on this trip. And when we've done that, we'll come back to you and round this talk up and see what kind of other things that we have done. So over to Tine. Tine, also welcome to you to the podcast, and please introduce ourselves to the audience and your background and how you became a pilot and later started in the Great Dane Airlines.
Yes, well, hello. My name is Tine, and I started flying because I grew up on a farm. I'm a country girl, and the farm was located near Skrydstrup, which is the Danish military base for our fighter jets. So I just watch fighter jets every day flying over the fields. And we were working there as kids, and I did not know what to do, but I knew that I was not going to be a farmer. So it was, looking down farming, looking up flying. And so, I went for the flying instead.
Oh, that's a great start. And I envy you on growing up as close. And I would definitely like that as well. Not everyone likes the noise from the fighter jets, but I will definitely be the one looking up as well on that part. So that's good. So you started in Great Dane Airlines as a pilot, and was it your first job as a commercial pilot?
Actually, I did not start as a pilot. I started as a cabin crew, and that's because it's very tough to get your first job. And when I realized I wanted to fly, I got to fly school, and I was job hunting for almost a year. It's very tough getting the first job when you're unexperienced. And then in the end, I figured out I have to work my way up to the flight deck. So I applied as a cabin crew, and I've also been cabin crew during my flight school time. So it was something I knew. And then I started when Great Dane Airlines started in the cabin as a cabin crew the first 5 months. And I just, I made sure I was always there so that when the opportunity would be there for a position in the cockpit, they would think of me. And I guess it worked.
I must say it works, and that actually also got to the next question that we have. You go to fly football fans to Baku in Azerbaijan. When did you actually first hear about the trip to Baku, and how much time in advance did you get? Because it was something that was planned basically hours before match starting.
Yeah. To be honest, I got 12 hours from from the first phone call and to the departure. And the funny thing was that phone call was in the evening. So 12 hours sounds like a lot, but when you have to sleep also, it's not a lot. And I was actually at a party because I have been flying 9 months in Vietnam, and I just got home, and it was the first party, and I just told everybody, oh, now we're going to have a good time. And then the phone rang and I had to go again, like standard. But I had 12 hours to go home, pack a bag, prep, sleep, and also get up very early to get a COVID test before the departure. They called me around, I think, 5 o'clock a.m. No, p.m. it must be, and then the departure was 5 a.m. So 12 hours.
12 hours, that's not a lot in the world, I guess, especially if you have a birthday party. And we'll come back to Vietnam a little bit later. But when you got this 12 hours notice and you have to sleep and you have to prepare and so forth, how much went into preparing for a flight like this? I'm assuming you haven't been to Baku before, so how does you prepare for going to a new airport that you have never seen before?
Yeah, that's the funny thing, because people always assume that when you're a pilot, you know where everything is. So the first thing I did was just to Google Baku, because I didn't know where it was, and I've never heard of it, to be honest. And then when I saw the country, Azerbaijan, my first thought was like, that's some contest, and like 10 points from Azerbaijan goes to. So no, I had to Google it and watch it on Google Maps. And when I did, I knew where it was, because it's actually next to Georgia, and I was just there. So first things first, figure out where it is. And then you look at maps and you look at terrain, weather, the routes. You look at the loading, flight times, fuel handling, all that stuff. But of course, as an airline, we have a planning department. So they look at a lot of things and they send a plan to us when they are done with it. But we also, as pilots, I mean, you cannot not do it. It's interest. You cannot help yourself. You look at stuff also, and then you just compare what you think with what they wrote. And usually it fits.
So what you're saying is there is not that big a preparation as such. Of course, it's pretty much standard. Even you're going to fly to Mallorca compared to Baku airport. So is larger international airports, do they work the same way, or do you just basically fly through it and then look at the map over the airport and then everything basically is the same thing?
No, there's always, different stuff, but most of it can be found. We have on our iPads, we have an app. It's called a Jeppesen Flight Deck Pro. We can look up all airports all over the world. And so we do before going, and you can see their taxi procedures and how many runways and what are the facilities. And so we prepare like a normal flight. And the thing that's not normal about a flight like this is always how many passengers are going to show up and how much fuel do we need and how much load. And also this was funny because the loading for this, normally people bring luggage and stuff like that, but this were football fans and they were just, short notice like us. So they almost brought like a national t-shirt and a toothbrush. That was it. So we had a lot of loading space for their beers and stuff. So it was, that's great. So that's the thing about a trip like this. And also the companies we normally work with like to have more time to prepare. So we could not get the food like we used to if it was a normal charter flight. So that was actually some of the girls from the office who went into a supermarket in the middle of the night to buy beers and chips. And they actually bought a tie with sequins on. Glitter, red and white we were. So that's the most funny thing when they're prepping for a trip like this.
I think it's also a good thing with a company like Great Dane Airlines. It's not as big, so you actually can do things like that compared to say, some of the bigger national airlines would probably not have the same flexibility and as you have. So you went home for the party. You got a good night's sleep. And, so what was your day about on going to Baku? So I assume the plane was in Aalborg and the departure was out of Copenhagen, right?
Yeah, well, I got up at 3:30, so that was a bit earlier than expected. I wasn't expected to be home by then, but I was up at 3:30, and then I had a COVID test at 4:45. Our check-in in Aalborg was at 5. That's standard. We always check in 1 hour before the departure. If we had the passengers from Aalborg, I think we would have been there before, but because it was just an empty ferry flight to Copenhagen, we kept it standard. And then we checked in and we talked about the trip and planned and just talked about expectations and what to do. And then we flew to Copenhagen and We departed from Aalborg at 6, and in Copenhagen, I remember it took a bit longer than normally because everything was had to fall into place. So I think it was at around 8 we departed from Copenhagen, towards Baku.
And then around 4.5 hours flight with football fans that was probably in a good mood and ready to have a good one. So it was a good party flight, I assume.
Yeah.
And you also have, let's say, your glitter red and white ties on. So that was pretty perfect. Could you use some of your experience from your time in Vietnam? You've been to Vietnam flying with Bamboo Airways for 2 times over the last year. So flying to Baku, is there some similarities in culture and language in talking to the air traffic controls that you could use and not just the standard flights out of Denmark?
Yeah, for sure. The talking to the air traffic controllers is easier now because when I first came to Vietnam, I didn't understand anything because you are used to very high standards around Europe and they don't have the same standard down there. And it was very hard for me in the beginning. But now, because I've been there, it's easier no matter where you are. I mean, flying is flying. So it's always the talking part and the planning part. And when we land in an airport, where is everything? Yeah. That's always the thing that's different every time.
So you know how Asian turn left sounds compared to that one. So a great experience now in your fairly short active career as a pilot. You've been to Vietnam, you've been to Baku. I assume that was not in the plans when you started up as a pilot, then Great Dane Airlines as a dedicated charter airline. So huge interest experience that you have got over the last years, I think.
Yeah, it really is. And also I was at Zanzibar when the COVID situation started. We had to evacuate different people. First, we evacuated from Europe, flew empty flights out and had people home. That was weird. And I have only been a pilot active pilot for 1 month and a half. So that was crazy. And then Vietnam and then this. So I guess for me, it's normal with weird. Weird is normal for me.
You have started, let's say, it's going to be difficult to get you out of your comfort zone, I guess.
I guess so.
So when you come to Baku and you have offloaded the fans, how is the layover working in that one? Did you also have time to go to the stadium and see some football, or was it full work, all of it?
We did have time and we went, but when we land, there's always a lot of stuff we need to get done, and mostly we prepped the aircraft, everything ready for the next day. So we had cleaning service and it was a big party on the way out, so it took a bit longer than normal, and we actually helped both the pilots and all of our cabin crew. Normally it's a service, people come on board, they help us clean, but we just did it as a team because there was so much. So we cleaned and we got toilet service, water service, and normally we also fuel the day before so that we are ready. But it was very hot down there. And, when things are hot, they expand. So if we did fill up our tanks with fuel, they would just float over and it would be a waste of fuel and money and the environment. So that's the only thing we waited with doing until the next day. We did it right before departure because then we can fill more fuel in the tanks.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. And a good insight on that part. So a little bit more on the details of what you're doing when we as a passenger typically are off and doing what we are, seeing football and stuff. So a little bit more on what happens on the ground in a new airport in a fast turnaround, basically, or in a turnaround within a day.
Yes. Yeah, but then when all that is done, we went to the hotel. It was kind of late, so we just hurried there and took a quick shower, quick food, and then we went to the stadium, and we tried to order tickets online, but it was a mess and we could not. we were too tired to figure it out because it's been a long day. So we just went to the stadium and we found a guy who helped us with buying them on a page he knew online. And so we went to the stadium, and that was actually my first football match to watch live, and it was amazing experience also to stand between your passengers, because that's not normal. As a pilot, and I couldn't recognize some of them because I had been out front and our job is normal, but the cabin crew, they were recognized by all of them, and they bought them beer and they just had a party. But it was also funny for us to be a part of that good vibe that they had in the cabin.
Oh, definitely. That must be a quite interesting again experience. Not normal of flying.
Not normal, no.
No. So there's a lot of things that's not normal on this flight, I guess. So the return flight to Copenhagen was it a tired bunch of football fans? Or was there still ready and party after we won that era?
Well, let me say that they were a bit more quiet when they arrived to the aircraft. The day before, it has just been like this crazy party animals we got on board. But this time they were very silent and a little bit more tired because they went out, of course, to celebrate the victory. But I guess I screwed that up because in my briefing, when we have a special flight like this, we also do a special briefing. And we had to fly through some turbulence on the way home. And I briefed that they had a funny thing. They were yelling at the stadium the day before, something like, if you don't jump, you're like the enemy, or something like that. So I just said that in the briefing, like, and if it will be a bit bumpy, it's because we don't like the enemy. And then it started. It was like, in the back. And I remember our senior cabin crew, she went to me like, you did not just do that because you can shut the door. This is going to be the same party for us now all the way home. So it was just, very good atmosphere. And also the air traffic controller in the airport said something like, congratulations, ma'am, when we called up, because our call sign is perfect for a trip like this. It's Great Dane, and we have the Danish flag on the tail. So it was just amazing.
And again, we have not talked about the airline name. So Great Dane Airlines is the Danish airline, but I also really, really love the design of the flight on the tail designs of this big red flag. So it's a perfect design and perfect name for flying football fans, I guess. So definitely one. So again, one for the experience on that part. So the flight home was not as silent because you wanted to jumping all the way through turbulence. That's also new for me. So you returned to Copenhagen. Again, I assume the plane has to go back to Aalborg and be parked and ready for other assignments. So did you fly again to Aalborg after departing in the passengers in Copenhagen?
Yes, when we landed, we had most passengers were deported, and then we had 4 passengers who actually was from Aalborg. So they flew with us back. And then we landed in Aalborg and we deboarded that last part of passengers and just made the aircraft ready again, because I think there was 2 hours until it had to go to Malaga with another flight crew. So the aircraft is always flying. It's just the crew changing.
And again, we have been following Great Dane for the last since the beginning actually, and also during the pandemic. And it is nice to see that all the 3 airplanes is actually quite active now, so it's not standing still. Also, it has been interesting with the Vietnam journey. So to round a little bit off and saying you have been doing a lot of interesting stuff, but also being in Vietnam and flying. What is in your life experience as a pilot, what is the most interesting flights that you have in your logbook?
Well, it is for sure the first Zanzibar trip when we had to evacuate people home, and then of course the whole Vietnam experience, and then this Baku. These are the 3 top 3 experiences so far.
Okay. Yeah. I would say it's also difficult to top them. I kind of.
People say that, but I say that every time. I said that after Zanzibar, I said the same thing. And then I went 9 months to Vietnam. And then after Vietnam, I said, oh my God, now my life is going to be normal. And then I was home for 14 days. It was actually my holiday. And that's why they wrote me, because all people not on holiday, they are flying the charter flights at home. So I keep saying now things will be normal, but they never do. And that's only cool, I think.
That's I think we have to put the expectation a bit lower, but I think but you have to contact us if you get some of these interesting again, because we would love to hear that. What is your next flight, Tine? Is that also to some exotic places, or is it just?
It's Malaga, and it's tomorrow out of Aalborg. We fly Malaga every Wednesday and Sunday now, so that's something I look forward to, because when they hired us, it's so funny. They told all of us, "This is such a good company to be in if you have kids or dogs, because you always come home." It has not been like that at all, but that's due to the COVID situation. So tomorrow is going to be my first flight like that, where I go to the airport, fly to Malaga, fly back, and then I'm home. So it's nice. I will try normal tomorrow.
Yeah, so tomorrow is a 8 to 5 job, pretty normal. Out in the morning, home in the afternoon, eating dinner, and that's it.
Yeah, almost, yeah.
Almost. Tine, thank you very much for giving us the insights on how the actual flight to Baku went. I hope to talk to you when you get on your new adventures at some point. So thank you for participating.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, now we've heard from Tine how it was to be the pilot and back and forth, and quite an interesting story as well. So Frederik, over to you now. Now this is over. We don't have any more football matches on exotic places. But would you do it again if the chance come up?
I would definitely do it again, because it was so much fun, and it was such a fantastic trip we had to Baku. I would definitely do it again, but with more time. I mean, we managed to get through with this, but it was hectic. It was stressful, even though it was fun. But I would say yes, but we need more time. And I'm not sure we'll be able to do crowdfunding again. Might be, I don't know, but I don't think so, because we kind of hit a sweet spot, because Denmark were like hit by the Euro 2020 fever, so to speak. And there's just been COVID, so I guess that people wanted to help football fans to get out of the country, to support our national team, and just to do something else instead of just being home, as we've been for like a year, more or less.
I tend to agree that probably is a one-timer, but it's good to hear that you're up for the challenge again. Stine, Great Dane Airlines, a quite young Danish airline with, as mentioned earlier, the most beautiful Danish flag on the tail. Since you started the airline, you have done everything from repatriation flights to having 2 airplanes in Vietnam, and now in 24 hours you sent one of your 3 planes to Baku. Is it possible because you are small, young, flexible Danish airlines? Is that the way you do it?
Yes, I would say that much of it has to do with both size and also mentality. We are still, I would say, we are during a third startup right now in 2 years because of COVID. But we recruit people who have the startup mentality, because if we were a bigger setup and a more consolidated setup, or so to speak, it would probably have been more difficult to take on this kind of ad hoc flight than for many other large airlines. But it's also something that we prioritize. We will always be ready to do ad hocs. We, as I said earlier, we really enjoy these ad hoc flights where we get the chance to do something different, and again, to keep the team spirit alive. As many that it can quickly become every day. You go to work, you have your scheduled flights, you go home. This helps us to stay alive, flexible, alert, and ready for any challenge. Yeah, so it's something that we would be sad to miss out on these ad hoc flights.
Well, and that's interesting because, as you mentioned, you started up as being a charter-focused airline, so supplying the perfect size airplane, the Embraer 195. Was it 118 passengers that can be in there? That was suitable for a lot of the Nordic charter operators. Then the COVID hit. You were then very flexible in doing was it 9 months in Vietnam almost with 2 planes and almost 50 people going in and out, and then you're back to normal. And I'm happy to see. I'm looking at Flight Radar and all these scenarios that now you have your 3 planes operating more normally in these days during the summer. So that's good to hear. So last question, Stine. Can everyone just call you and book a charter flight to anywhere the Emperor can fly to?
Yes, anyone can call us. We have a sales department and a number on the webpage, and everyone can call for a quote for a flight, just like Frederik did, and vice versa. We are also, as Frederik said, ahead mostly. So if we hear that in and around, for example, a tournament like the European Championship in football, we are also very keen on trying to, of course, get some of those flights, especially in connection to the Danish football team, because, as you said, we have the perfect aircraft for flying Danish fans and teams around the world.
And last from you, Frederik.
No, I was just about to say, Christina said it's nice to do something different instead of just flying to Malaga or whatever. And I would just say this flight to Baku, it wasn't just different, it was extraordinary. I mean, it was planned in no time. There might be a procedure for planning a flight, but still, it was far away. First time going there, a totally different country. So I would say it was extraordinary, and on top of that, the flight was full of Danish flags and red and white colors. It was fantastic, and we did that in 20 hours more or less. It was just a fantastic experience for me to see, and we had a good cooperation throughout setting up the whole flight and going there.
So, a happy customer, a happy airline, happy fans, and what more perfect to be when we won in Azerbaijan, stating to the air traffic control, Great Dane Airlines is now ready to return home and continue the fighting for the championship, which now we know unfortunately ended in the semifinals, but it was a good one. Frederik and Stine, thank you very much for joining. It has been a pleasure talking to you, and I'm definitely sure that I'm ready again if you do some kind of crazy stuff in the future. Happy to hear that. So thank you very much for joining.
Thank you, Henrik.
Thank you, Henrik.
This marks the end of this special episode of the Travel Plus Loyalty podcast, an episode on how to book and arrange a charter flight for over 100 football fans in under 24 hours. A final remark, Stine from Great Dane Airlines mentioned during the talk that some of the catering was done in Bilka. For those not in Denmark, Bilka is a supermarket, so not often catering is done in a supermarket. But this shows how fast and flexible things are at Great Dane Airlines. We from the Travel Plus Loyalty team wish you a good summer, and if you like this episode, please share it with your friends and family. It is much appreciated. Safe travel to all.